Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to the empowered harmonizers, and we are zooming in and focusing in and picking up on a previous video that we just discussed. And we're zooming in, and I apologize, I'm getting phone calls in that are disrupting our chat here. So I apologize for that, but we're zooming in and focusing in on really the skills of happiness, the skills of peace, the skills of relaxation, and the skills of recovery and coming into your own personal power once again, especially after being in a relationship with someone who has engaged in emotional manipulation, perhaps deceit, duplicity, pathological lying, having a life or a facade with which you had fallen in love with or thought was going to be a match for you. And now you're realizing that this is a very painful, unfulfilling, and empty way to live. And you feel like you've been chasing after wind, and it is not working for you. It's not serving you. It's not making you happy. You're sick of this. You've had enough. You want out. You want to change. You want to know what it is you need to fix, and you want to fix it now. You want to stop this repetition compulsion of repeating the same mistakes over and over, the same life problems over and over. Stopping living by the defense mechanisms and constantly coping or struggling. It's time to exit that force field. It's time to step out of the boxing ring. It's time to, let go of the angered tones. It's time to change your internal chemistry and your neurobiology so that you are congruent, you are clear, and you are operating as a single whole entity that is strong, secure, and happy and cannot be pushed over by the bullying commands, the bullying sort of conformist to the standards that is propagated in a culture or a family or a relationship that you have found yourself in. Perhaps it's in a company structure. We have viewers who are encountering this at all different places in areas of their life. So it's really those skills which I feel are really not taught. We are taught the skills of busyness and not taught to really kind of tune into our own internal value system. So I want to zoom in and continue to focus in on that because there's some very powerful truths in this. And once you really get it, and once you really trust it, it will lift you up. It will basically carry you where you want to go, and life will cease to be such a struggle. When you throw up your hands and say, I surrender, I am stopping this fighting. I don't like how it makes me look, makes me sound. I'm not entering in the fight ring. I'm getting out of the cockfight. I'm not putting my bets on this sort of demolishing of the happy qualities. I'm ceasing that struggle. I am now turning to myself for my wholeness and security. And even if it's just silence and neutrality, that is a skill that you can develop and adopt within. And it's an emotional state. It's a be state that you need to allow yourself and give yourself permission to enter. But it's very difficult because society or narcissistic, psychopathic, the antisocial people who have, learned the skills of manipulating and overpowering people to become exactly what they think that they need and then lead double and triple lives is just a mask. And it can be very, very terrifying to be so psychologically twisted and contorted and have this crazy chemical formula of the hormones of stress and anxiety and lust and passion and anger and all these sort of neurochemicals which are not really meant to be combined, and then have your body and your mind and your focus and your really kind of connection to yourself and everything that you relate to in sort of a close, chummy, warm, and fuzzy way is gone. It's obliterated. And when you are in these relationships with someone who is that disordered, it's the puzzle, it's the chaos that you end up becoming addicted to. And it's so elusive, and then it's so confusing because there's no other resource for you to grab onto. What you've usually grabbed onto is not there. So it's very, very terrifying to have lost that connection. And believe me when I tell you, your peace and harmony will be restored. You will come back to a sense of a new normal, but even a closer new normal for you. A lot of people just have, it's like a life altering event. They say, oh my God, how could I have ever done this to myself? I'm intelligent, I'm nice, I'm witty, I'm affectionate, all these good things were just like poof, up in smoke. And I have, made a complete soul violation. It's really kind of a soul violation. And it's, even when you say that, it's very hard to even say what the soul is, but you need a word to describe how large it is, or how profound, or how infinite, or how crucial it is to your life, how crucial it is to your life being. It's really a matter of finding that morality and cherishing it within yourself, and realizing that perhaps you would come up against some very immoral people who do immoral things, and by virtue of being with them, your mirror neurons were, get in reciprocity. So you became kind of like a silly putty. If you've ever seen silly putty, it's like a clay, and you'd put it on like a newspaper, and it would take like an image, of that comic. You can pull it and stretch it, and it would look really funny. But that's kind of what it's like. Your mirror neurons in your brain begin to become activated, where you feel the energy of people around you, and you begin to have this exchange where you will become, like those who you surround yourself with. It's just like the rich become richer, the poor become poorer. Oftentimes it's because they're surrounding themselves with that same energy. So, the poor are comfortable with the poor. The rich become comfortable with the rich. So they seek to rise up, or, lower down and hide, depending on the culture. So it's really, it is meeting those expectations. So, but it's on a unconscious basis. So you can't really get a grip on it while it's happening, and you're learning the skills of busyness and really conforming to people's standards, who oftentimes do not have your best interests in mind at the deepest level. Having you in shambles or ruins, to have you unsatisfied, is very much the aim, oftentimes, especially in those relationships that are antisocial. To see you devastated is oftentimes what gives them a pleasure. It's a very sick, sadistic thing. People can't imagine. It is horrible for them, but it is just life for them, and they take great pride in being able to do this. For them, they don't have the same connection to life, so they feel that they're entitled to do this, but they're very dangerous people to be around. Even if it's romantically, in business settings, family settings. I know we have a number of viewers whose parents are this way. You need to just objectively say, this happened, I'm out. I mean, you need to become very decisive and get away from these people and get yourself into a safety place. But as we're saying, the skills, we need to realize where we were trying to meet someone's expectations, society's expectations, and not our own. So oftentimes the value of being content is not propagated in a consumer or capitalist-based society. If you are in a capitalist-based society, you are taught to want more, better, bigger, better, faster, shinier, redder, pinker, blacker, whiter, oranger. I mean, it's always, moving, and life is fluid. Life does have change. But when you're living on your expectations and knowing your boundaries and knowing your standards, you get into a self-protective mode. But that oftentimes is not encouraged in either narcissistic, psychopathic relationships, or even the culture at large, when they're heavily capitalist or greed driven. So it's very important to see the defined line and begin to de-identify with trying to meet another's expectations, and begin to want and get to know your own expectations for yourself. And to do that, you need to learn the skills of peace and harmony within yourself, and the skills of being in a mindful state of being. So it's to get away from the race, the doing, and it's to cease the doing. It's to cease the wanting. It's just to let go of the want and just to be. And when you can get into that, because sometimes it's, life is about wanting things. Yes, it's great to have desires. Yes, it's great to have goals and objectives and things that you want to do, but it's very important that these come from within you and develop a sort of enthusiasm or passion versus externally and for the wrong reasons, which will break you down and become causation of being insecure and degradation, such as we see in the devalue and discard phase when we're with those people who are narcissistic, and it's condition based, it's judgment based. So when we talk about learning these skills, what are some of the skills? Well, it is just that. It is a skill. So to acknowledge that it's something that you can learn, you can adopt, and that it's going to take radical action, meaning it's going to take action from you, which is different from what you have been taking hitherto up to the present moment. So if you've been working on this, maybe, and you've been with me for a while, maybe you've been doing your recovery pages, you've been doing your recovery date, you've been doing your emotments, where you take a period of time that is scheduled in your appointment book. And if you don't have an appointment book, I really suggest you get one now, because if you just say, oh, I will do it, and then you never get around to it, it takes on a whole new life of its own when you write it down. So much in what we do as texting and, all this kind of stuff, it is not as commitment based and as connected to reality as when you take pen to paper. Pen to paper. If we think about how much we text to people, just think about how different it would be if you were to write it all down. And when you write it down, for example, when you write down the words, I love you, it really is coming from your heart. I mean, for it to flow from your handwriting, you have to be, you have a fuller element of engagement versus when you text it. Because there's a different sort of connection and energy and vibration that comes from when you've got, pen and paper, which has been from, sourced from a tree. This has a different connection. It will pick up your body warmth. It picks up the artistry of your handwriting. It has a feel and a weight to it. You can kind of begin to embrace it. It's just like when you read a real book versus a Kindle. You have a much deeper connection. And when you write things down, you are making a commitment. So when we talk about, well, there's so many tools that we're talking about in the skills of happiness. For one, it's developing a positive inner attachment, secure attachment within yourself. It's learning to develop and grow and increase in volume and clarity your inner voice. And we're talking about your self-talk. And you might say, well, what is self-talk, peace, and harmony? Well, it's just that voice that just asked that right now, so that you ask it to yourself. But it's learning to open up that inner voice so you can begin to hear it and influence this in a positive way, so you are able to get to that subconscious operating level that gives you the peace, harmony, and empowerment that you want, and helps you to open up what you truly want and what your true expectations are versus what someone else wants for you, and feels kind of icky. It feels wrong, yet you feel like you must conform to their expectations in order to fit into society. We all want to be liked. We all want to be approved of. And so there's, give and take, and there's compromise. But it's very important when oftentimes these have been lost through very destructive relationships. It's very important to rekindle that secure attachment to yourself. And you develop your inner voice. It takes some time. It might take a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months till it really starts to pick up some steam and momentum and really begins working profoundly and strong in your life. And it's absolutely amazing. I mean, when I have done this, I've made huge advancements professionally, personally, financially. I mean, I was able to have creative flows, creative streaks, new product development, painting, you name it, physical fitness, cooking, relationships that were soaring, all sorts of different things began to take place when I was getting this secure attention. And I'm a firm believer in writing the 3 pages longhand every morning in a skinny little notebook or a fat big one and a pen, and just writing whatever comes to mind, but it's for you and for you only. So you're developing a way to hear yourself. So this is the whole goal. And if you must stick with it for at least a couple weeks, and it'll start to become pleasurable. And if you need to get up an hour early to do this, I would highly recommend getting up early and doing this and having some me time, some you time, just for you time, to get to do this in a sacred new activity. And sacred it is because it's like your own little time to get into your private zone, your privacy zone, and focus. And the best time is in the morning because that's when your inner critic is asleep. You're not really kind of consumed. You're coming from the dream state, so your brain waves are in the delta. They're in the the slower brain waves, so you're not as hypercritical of things, and you don't want to sort of censor, oh, my handwriting's this way, I was writing too small, too big, that sentence too long. It's not about being perfect. It's just about writing anything and everything. If you just write I am, something, at least you're beginning to stir up that inner voice, and you are learning the skills of happiness because you're developing that inner attachment. And then we also begin to work with the astramations, which are positive and goal-oriented in mind with a state that you want to achieve. In other words, I am at peace. I am at harmony. I am in my life purpose. I am in abundance. I am inspiration. I am creative. I am productive. And you repeat these things over and over again, and you can use your recovery journal to write these down. You can repeat these to yourself. You can scream them out in your car. But these are called affirmations, and they are to really get you into a B state, which is more of the important thing is the physiology. So we also talk about, taking a short walk, but making sure that you're mindful of your emotions and how things are kind of working within you in your body, your posture. Are you sitting with your head up, your shoulders back? Can you keep your arms open? Or are you always trying to, do this and, this and, trying to cover yourself up? Are you armoring your body? Are you adrenalized all the time? Are you slumped over? Pay attention to your body language, because your body is your subconscious mind, and your body is a reflection of that. Are you really overweight? Are you super skinny? I mean, these are some tips to how you've been dealing with all these expectations, which are the skills oftentimes of busyness, and they're not the skills of happiness, of being relaxed. Oftentimes society, especially capitalist or consumer-based societies, do not value or encourage mindful states or B states or being at peace or being content, because try this new sandwich, try this new drink. I mean, it's all about, looking outside of yourself to fulfill something within you and fill that void, when really the happiness is inside of you. It's an internal B state, which you can choose and have with you no matter what you do. I am at peace and harmony now. When you say this to yourself while you walk, I am living in peace and harmony now. When you just let go of the wantings and the trappings, all the defense mechanisms that you quote unquote think are going to make you happy. Operative word, think. We want to get away from the think, the analyzing. Society doesn't encourage this. This is radical action coming into the B state, the heart area, the solar plexus, the seat of self-esteem. The grounding, the seat of passion, the sacral and the grounding chakra. The lower, where the energies are coming up from, are in this area. And then the throat chakra, which is communicating, the crown chakra, which is, connected to the higher, the divinity, the heavens. When you get these all aligned, The root chakra, that's what I'm looking for. Your root chakra, which is like your base chakra where you sit, your pelvis where it meets the chair. This is the seat of your passion, and you want to get these all aligned. You can study this. But these are your energy centers, and it's not about any sort of religion. It's really about understanding energy centers in your body and allowing these to become aligned. But when you're stuck in your head, I think this is going to make me happy. I think, let's try to remove that, and let's replace that with I know. I know this will make me happy. And oftentimes there's a lot of blocking that takes place. In other words, you are standing in the way between you and going for that walk, going for that bicycle ride, going for that creative project, going for that feeling of happiness, going for that recovery date, all sorts of things. I can't set up a savings account because I can't get my password right. I mean, any little thing can come up and be an excuse. I can't find my shoes. I can't go for a walk. My socks don't match. I'm not going to be warm enough. It's going to be too hot. It's going to be too cold. It's too gray out. It's too sunny. It's too rainy. It's too snowy. I mean, there's so many sort of excuses that we put in that will stop us or prohibit us from following through on those positive action steps that are going to take us out of that defense mechanism approach and attitude towards life and to relationships, which oftentimes have been heavily reinforced by negative, toxic, emotionally manipulative relationships where we're with a narcissist or a psychopath or a sociopath or a borderline, someone who's really black or white, hypercritical all the time, is always, plunging us into self-doubt where we're always feeling like we're torn. We're always having to explain and justify and react. We want to let go of all of that. Let go of all of it. You need to let go of this and just exit that and give yourself a chance to just let it go, because especially if you're so used to grabbing on for purchases, grabbing on for a kiss, grabbing on for a text, grabbing on for an email, grab. I mean, no wonder you don't have the skills of peace and harmony, because it has not been reinforced, and you don't understand the value. That's where your personal power and your clarity comes from. Your expectations. You don't have to react. It can be within yourself. I want to have a dog. That's all I want. I want to have a cat. I want to have a kitten. I want to be able to be relaxed. I want to be comfortable. I'm sick of trying to prove something to the world that is causing me to break down. I'm sick of living this way and satisfying everybody else's needs and never getting any attention for my own. And I need to learn how to receive now. So it's becoming into that positive, sort of peaceful, receptive state where you can begin to learn the skills of happiness and allow yourself, it's permission-based state where you can just say, wow, and then reflect and have gratitude and appreciation for what comes around you. But you see, messages and your internal voice will become louder when you enter into this state. You'll enter into a new way of hearing some things, some solutions, some things you want to do, some things you want to make. Things are really important to you. I really love this. I really love that. I really love the feeling of this, the feeling of the wind, the smell of the trees, the feel of the grass. Go out and what I call resensitize and learn the skills of resensitizing or pleasing your senses, not as they meet the expectations of another or society, but really getting into what resensitizes you and makes you feel good. Feeling a fleece blanket, feeling a soft shirt or soft pants, sweatpants, yoga pants, plush pants. Guys, if you don't wear these, then how about, some jeans with flannel underneath or fleece underneath? Getting something comfortable where the clothing actually massages you and helps you feel good. Getting a hat. Oh, it doesn't make my hair look good. Wear a hat anyway. Learning to surround yourself with healing scents, positive images. We talk about priming and how important it is to have positive images around you. How about going out for a sunrise walk and seeing the sunrise and then waking up on the trail and then having, the first morning light illuminate your pathway for you. It is about creating memorable moments for yourself. And this requires an intention. So everyone's like, well, what do you mean by intention? That sounds so, Buddhist, or, I don't even know what that means. But it's saying, you know what, I'm going to create a memorable moment. And that is what the recovery date is about. It's about creating that memorable moment for yourself. I'm going to go for a memorable walk at sunrise. I'm going to go for a memorable walk at sunset. I'm going to go for a memorable spa day. I'm going to go and take a memorable bubble bath, guys and girls. I'm going to have a, memorable meal that I'm going to make that is completely plant-based, and I'm going to see how I can develop a food journey and see if I can change what I'm putting in my body to give it more nutrients than everything that is so starchy, heavy, and just makes me feel gunked up, yucky, shut down, feeling sluggish, feeling lethargic. It's not doing anything for me. What nutrients can I start doing? How can I resensitize myself? How can I sort of begin to bring new things into my sense area? And I can even focus on that for a recovery date. I can learn to find what is texturally comfortable. I can do dry brushing. I can do exfoliating. I can do different oils with different scents. You can do different lighting for yourself. Move some furniture around in your house so it looks different. So you have a chair by a window versus having something else by the window. Opening up your draperies, getting some draperies. I mean, there are so many different things you can do. It doesn't have to cost a lot, but these are the skills of happiness, working with the resources that are all around you, and really doing things like watching things that are nutritive to your soul. For example, watching on Netflix Before the Flood, an amazing documentary hosted by Leonardo DiCaprio, and he talks about the state of emergency really in the globe right now, which is that of global warming. Begin to look at some of these humanitarian struggles and fights and coming together and coalescing for good, and watch that and allow yourself to be positively moved by some true causes that are yours, that are heartfelt to you. Begin to find some of these things, and also, people that you look up to, and see how you can model them. Begin to have compassion. Go out and hug a tree, pat a tree on it, and and pat yourself. I mean, begin to develop compassion. Begin to develop some actions that emanate and spring forth from you, that are natural and authentic and your own expectations for yourself, even especially if they are disappointing of others. It's just like the old adage, so-and-so wants me to be a doctor, a lawyer. Who are you? How about who you are and what you're built for, and how can you become really arrive into your personal power? These are the skills of personal power. When you get into these states, you begin to open up that inner voice, which arrives at solutions and ideas, which will keep you in the flow of creativity, of doing, of radical action, rather than embattling and emblazing and trying to fight. Letting go of the fight and embracing the life, embracing creativity, embracing the positive being, versus trying to always explain and justify yourself, and really developing a whole new inner language structure which reflects that positivity. But it has to really get into you physiologically, and then that energy can begin to just move you in the right direction. So I know we've gone long today, and it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and comment for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.